The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Some breaking news coming in. Customers whose money is locked up on trading and lending platform Genesis and who have taken legal advice on the matter currently account for some $1.8 billion worth of loans, according to a CoinDesk source. And that number looks like it will continue to grow. Joining us now to discuss is CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who's also the editor of CoinDesk's The State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick. So this is another latest scoop brought to us from CoinDesk's Ian Allison. We should note also that Genesis and CoinDesk are both owned by Digital Currency Group. Ian Allison, of course, is the reporter who broke the news on Alameda Research's balance sheet, and looks like he's done it again. What do we know so far, Nick?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, so Ian, who also should be noted, broke that Genesis had a hefty amount of funds locked up on 3 Arrows Capital earlier this year, reported last night that, as you said, at least two groups of creditors are now forming who are owed. At least one group is owed, more than $900 million. Another third group, in this case, meaning we have a group on Gemini, a group that is owed $900 million, and then this third group. We don't even know how much they're owed yet. So DCG is looking at north of, as you said, $1.8 billion that it now owes to its creditors. And obviously we don't have a clear sense of its financials at this point, but given reports and rumors over the last couple of weeks that Genesis has been trying to fundraise, that, obviously we saw it had to, the lending arm suspending, withdrawals, suggests that it's not a good time for Genesis right now.
To say the least, if I can recall in the interview between Sam Bankman-Fried and Andrew Ross Sorkin for the New York Times, I think at one point SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, said that Genesis had tried to call in a $1 billion loan that it had made to, I guess it was either Alameda or FTX. It doesn't matter anymore. It's all the same as far as we can tell. Do we know if that's tied in with this, if they ever actually did get their money? And if so, I mean, that means that this might actually, there's quite a hole here, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's kind of the story of what's happened to Genesis this year. Really, this is a story of what happened to a lot of the lenders. They had funds exposure, to some of these other class projects. But we saw Celsius and BlockFi file for bankruptcy. We saw Voyager Digital file for bankruptcy. We don't know if Genesis is going to file for bankruptcy, but it does kind of suggest that, this contagion concern that we've been hearing about for the last 6 months or so is pretty real, because Genesis had funds exposed to BAC and to FTX, and so far, at least, it's kind of following the same playbook that we saw some of these other lenders follow in terms of losing access to their funds, not being able to recover them, and now being in a position where if they can't raise capital, on a kind of emergency basis, they might well have to file for bankruptcy or, look for a rescuer who isn't going to go bankrupt himself in a couple of months.
Switching gears, Nick, what else are you watching this month?
So this is December. We have a couple things coming up. The first one is the U.S. Defense Bill, the National Defense Authorization Act. Every year, there's usually some kind of crypto provision included within it, so we'll be watching out to see if one is included this year. Where I'm also really interested in the Safe Banking Act. This is a bill that will allow companies to more easily bank cannabis companies. This isn't directly crypto related, but the crypto industry, I think, has for a long time now paid attention to what's been happening with the cannabis sector and banking services there, because it is kind of the same story where a lot of cannabis companies and a lot of crypto companies have had difficulty getting access to banking services because of the nature of their businesses. If this bill passes, it might be a hopeful sign for the crypto industry that one day they too will be able to more easily access banking services. Perhaps not after the last 6 months, but in general.